Kun Prasong, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the anti-corruption event organized by the German Thai Chamber of Commerce. This is a clear signal towards GTCC to support the Royal Thai government's endeavors to fight against corruption. And in this regard, I would like to mention that many large German and medium-sized companies do have very strict corporate regulations in order to fight corruption worldwide. And therefore, we are very happy to have you, Kun Pramon, here with your experience, with your activities, and to speak to us. I would like to give you, ladies and gentlemen, some background information from Kun Pramon, born in 1939, young man. Married, he has one daughter and two sons. Very good, very good. In our age, it's better like that. And Kun Pramon has studied at the Harvard and at the Kansas City universities. And you have a fantastic career. And I think it's very difficult. I would stay here half an hour longer if I would mention all the companies which you have managed and supported. But I think one company I would like to mention, you did very well with Siam Cement and for many years. And you were also for many years the president of the international chambers and members within trade associations, education foundations, and within the government divisions. Kun Pramon has very high Thai and international decorations. It also would take a long time to mention all of them. And that shows you that we have here Kun Pramon as an honorable guest, very much accepted worldwide. And also one activities I have to mention, because you told me you are going with the dealer organization to Germany. Kun Pramon is also the chairman of the board of directors from Toyota, and I was very happy to hear that he's going with his dealers, not to Japan, to Germany. Very good decision. Kun Pramon, the floor is yours, and let's give him a big hand, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much, my friend, Mr. Harkison. It's very great pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to address the joint chambers on the anti-corruption activities. Corruption is a very difficult subject to talk because oftentimes all of us know something about corruption, but feel that it's sometimes helpless to do anything about it. I hope that by the end of my talk, maybe some of you will have some ideas about how to help and to move forward with the cleaner society in Thailand. I will cover basically 5 topics. We talk about the Corruption Perception Index that the international organization have made some rating. We talk about effect of the corruption to to the business and society. And I mentioned a little bit about international anti-corruption agency that we work with. And the last two topics would be talking about Thailand in particular, what's happening here, and our organization, the Anti-Corruption Organization of Thailand. On the Corruption Perception Index rated by TI, which is the Transparency International, we noticed that Thailand has been ranked about 88. This is about middle of the range because of all the countries, about 170. And for the last 5 years or so, we remain at this level, fluctuating a little bit, 1 or 2 positions. So you can see that the point score 37 is below, this is 100 scoring point. So 37 is below 50, which is of course a failing grade. And even in Asia, we are not doing very well. We are 13 regionally. But now take a look at the market ranking, which is the corporate governance. Surprisingly, Thailand ranked pretty good. This is private sector. So you can see that the private sector in Thailand had improved tremendously over the years in terms of corporate governance. We moved from 47 to 58 points in the last 5 years. And we are ranked about number 3, even above, higher than Japan and Malaysia. So what it says that while the average of the country remained the same, private sector had improved. So it implies that the government sector is the one that really dragging down the average of the whole country. Now, if you look at the World Bank report, it gives Thailand pretty high ranking last year. In fact, we become the leader, regional leader in this event. But to say to ourselves that private sector is improving is not good enough. Because to fight the corruption, what we are looking at is that it's not only us to be good. I think we have to insist on others being clean as well. And this is the whole point of the movement, what we are trying to do. What I'm saying is that everyone should really stand up and be counted to make clear that and make sure that the society is clean. Let me talk about the effect on the corruption on the business and society. On the corruption on the businesses, effect on the business. It is estimated that the cost of corruption equal more than 5% of the global GDP. That's $2.6 trillion every year. And corruption adds to about 10% of the total cost of doing business globally, and even higher for the developing countries like Thailand, maybe up to 25%. Now this happened to be in line with some of the surveys that we have done locally. You have heard maybe in the report that we are now talking about 25, even 30% of the leakage of the government budget. So honest companies are still losing out to the dishonest competitor. I assume all the people who are sitting here are losing the business. So you are the good guys. How about the effect to the society? TI again estimates that the damage from corruption can represent up to 25%, and in the worst case, maybe up to 50% of the contract values. And it costs life, because some of the projects that have been mismanaged or under corrupted things, we can see people get killed. A good example of this was the Royal Plaza in Nakhon Ratchasima back in 1999, when it was 93, when it collapsed and killing 137 people. The permit was issued even though the construction was not properly carried out. On the international anti-corruption agencies, I mentioned a few here that we have some association with. United Nations on Drug and Crime had what we call the UNCTAD 2003. This is the regulation that most of the country has subscribed to. Thailand is a member of this, and we ratified this in 2011. So we are committed to make the improvement in this area. OECD is talking about corporate governance. You look at the private sector that we have moved and have been able to achieve some pretty good results. TI, Transparency International, have the Integrity Pact. I will talk more about this in my later talk because it is one of the things that we are now achieving some results. On the World Bank, good governance and the collective action. Also, I will mention something about collective action in our efforts. This is something that the IOD, which is attached to the stock market, has been doing. Let's talk about corruption in Thailand. Before I do that, let me tell you a story. This is a story that passed on to me by a good friend of mine that when he knew that I was acting as the corruption chairman. So it went like this. The three old men went to see God. The first old man, a Chinese, asked God, when will his country become democratic? 50 years, God said. The Chinese started crying. I will not live to see that day. The second old man, a Japanese, asked God, when will my country come out of recession? 30 years, come the reply. The Japanese also started crying. I will not live to see that day. Now finally, a man from Thailand asked God, when will my country become corruption-free? God looked at him and started crying. I will not live to see that day. So ladies and gentlemen, we have an easy task ahead of us. Existing corruption circumstances in Thailand, it's been alleged that it's very widespread and rampant corruption, particularly in the political system. We estimate that the bribe taking ranging from 25 to 30% of the government budget, particularly in the procurement, construction, and investment. This is a survey done by the Thai University of Commerce. Now, in the past, if you look 30 years ago, we talk about a leakage of maybe 3 to 5% from the contract, right? And we have the word in Thailand, we said, "Kin tam nam," meaning you take the money with the flow of the water. Now it's against the water. So now people are making demand for the money to be paid upfront. So this is why the big number is coming up. You know, the estimate amount that we are talking of the government budget is about 300 billion baht. It's not a small change. Something that can be used to improve life, to improve the situation in Thailand, and even to spend a little money on the good teacher from this kind of thing. So there's also a grand corruption in the mega project, especially in the populist policy. One of the good examples is the right pledging that the government has been doing for the last 1 or 2 years. There's so many corruption in every step of the way. We have exposed this. The government accepted it, but nothing much has been done so far. Punanam Penyarachun, former Prime Minister, as you know, he said at one time that this is the most severe corruption in Thailand since he has seen in his life. Mr. Dusit Nontanakon, the former head of the Chamber of Commerce, started this movement. And he said, corruption is common and acceptable in Thai values. If this continues, Thailand will see a difference. So that's where we are today. Now let me talk about the Anti-Corruption Organization of Thailand, which who we are and what we are trying to do. The Anti-Corruption Organization of Thailand, formerly titled Anti-Corruption Network, it was established in June 2011 as the only business-led network with the objective to counter corruption. We have now 47 members, comprises a variety of the organization from public, private, and academic, together with the social organization. It's started with a small group of people. We have some dedicated people who are willing to put in their time and money to support the organization. Money-wise, we do get contribution from the members from time to time when we organize activities. To give you the good look at these are the well-known symbol you see. These are the members of our group, the 47 group, 47 organization I'm talking about. So what is our vision? We said we want to be the social power that drive people in Thailand to demolish the corruption. We emphasize the social power for the reason that we are a private organization. We do not have the government backing. We do not have any laws behind us. To succeed, we must get people to realize that corruption is bad for them and stand up and help us. Our mission basically is first to build trust and reputation. We want to strengthen the connectivity and empowerment with our members. We want to reinforce the anti-corruption policy with the government ministries. And finally, we want to promote and support the role models of good people. We are not talking only about bad people. We are hoping to see some good example. I want to emphasize number 2, which is the connectivity and empowerment. Again, as I said, we cannot do this alone. We are building trust and momentum. We want to get people to be involved. We want to get everyone to understand that this is their problem, not only our problem. I mentioned to our government people that we work with that, look, we are not targeting you in particular. We know that private sector is half of the problem. If there are people who cannot pay and will not pay, there can be no corruption. So private sector is half of the problem. And we are working with several organizations to improve on this. The value and principle is independent and neutral. This is again something that we have to maintain. We are not working against anybody in particular. We must try to get all the support we can. Now, how do we work? What's our core strategy? We work on the 3 pillars, the triangle. The first one is the promotion. This is basically working with children, with youth, trying to make them understand and grow up to be a better person and not involved in the corruption. The second is prevention. We are looking at prevention as a mean of stopping corruption before it happens. The laws in Thailand is very cumbersome. If you try to catch somebody making any wrongdoing and take them to court, it can take several years, 10, 20, even 30 years. Most people who cheated die before all the cases can be concluded. So there is no incentive for them to fear the law. The last thing we have to do is that we will take this up to prosecution, which is not our authority. This rests with the public organization and the NACC, which is National Anti-Corruption Commission, is charged with this activity. So what we have done is that we will publicize or we will expose any wrongdoing that we have found and turn over the matters to the National Anti-Corruption. Now let me talk a little more about the promotion side. We are doing many activities that you can see here. I want to emphasize two: the campaign at high school level and at the university level. The campaign at the high school level, we have started with the Bangkok Metropolitan here, with all the schools they have. We have the program that in Thai we call To Pai Mai Kong, which means that growing up not corrupt. And we put the curriculum in the school. We get the support from the authorities to make sure that this program gets distributed. So far, we have been very successful. You know, the university levels, just 2 weeks ago, head of the university in Thailand, all, I said all, meaning public as well as private, more than 200 of them, signed a memorandum to support the program. In Thai we call Nisit Mai Kong, meaning that university students will not cheat. And the program will be launched at Thammasat University this coming Sunday. So here again, we are getting the movement into the school and university. And we are hoping that by doing this, we get the children to understand and not to accept that, that corruption is a way of life. On the prevention side, there are 3 or 4 major programs going on. The watchdog is the attempt where we recruit volunteers who want to do investigation themselves. We have trained several hundred. We hope to be in thousands. These are the people who live across the country, and they see projects being carried out by the government every day. It's near their home, and we said we teach them how to use the camera, how to make the investigation easy, and they make a report back to the organization. For all those that require further investigation, we turn the matters over to the authorities, either the government or the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Collective action. This is what I mentioned before, that the World Bank has been supporting this. Collective action is something which IOD, Institute of Directors in Thailand, is now recruiting companies to join, to sign on, to really say that they themselves will not support corruption, and they within their own company will have the mechanism to prevent it. There are now 160 companies signed up. Again, a very small number. We are hoping that more and more people will join. I believe some of the German companies have already joined this program. The roundtable thing. The roundtable is the forum when we had the opportunity to bring people who are involved in the transaction that may lead to corruption to the table together. And we discuss the potential problems. We ask them for recommendation, and we implement some of the recommendations to prevent further corruption. The project on the flood prevention, 350 billion baht, that's being carried out, will be one of the topics that we are conducting the roundtable is coming May 27. This will give an opportunity for people to voice their concern, and we hope that the government agency involved will take up the matters. Okay. IP, the small circle that represents the Integrity Pact. The Integrity Pact is something which is not new. It's being used internationally. Basically, it's asked the parties involved with the government contract to sign an agreement to prevent corruption. the three parties involved are the government agencies, contractors, and the so-called independent observers. I believe in Germany, Berlin Airport, when it was constructed, there is a integrity pact sign with all the people. Now, the integrity pact, let me talk a little bit about it. What is it and why it is important. Okay, the integrity pact will involve three parties, as I said. The government agency or the project owners agree to disclose all important information, starting with the term of reference and the median price. These are the two really important matters when we talk about corruption. The term of reference is normally when you want to give a deal to somebody in particular, you write it so that nobody else can compete. I mean, there's no way other can, they'll be disqualified. And the price, median price is something that if you jack it high enough, there's plenty of money to spread around. So with this agreement, government agency will agree to disclose and to invite the participation from the independent observers to participate. They will treat all the bidders equally, must not demand any kind of payment, and allow for the independent observers to participate from the beginning to the end. I said to the end. This is again very important. In current practices, if you happen to be the lucky winning bid, but you are not part of the system, you are being penalized in many ways, including the final payments to be given. There will be so many investigators coming in saying that your project is no good, cannot be accepted, and so on. So in a way, if you are not part of the system, you better not get in. We hope that we will change that. Now on the contractor and representative, they have to adopt all measures to prevent corruption. We will not make any offer or payment to any government officials. We will not collude in the bidding. And we allow the independent observers. Here is the independent observer, the most important part of the program. We will have a group of people participate in the bidding process from the beginning, as I said, from the written of the term of reference, to be sure that it's fair, it's open, and enough time for everyone to participate. It's a neutral group of people, but we can express our opinion. We will receive all necessary information and can make them public. This is important. If we don't like what we see, we expose it to the public. And we report any suspect misconduct to the NAACP. Now, if we can get this agreement signed, accepted by the government agencies, we're hoping that the competition for big government projects will be fairer, will be more transparent, and people who have not before bid in the project will have a chance to join. Okay, so what is our effort? The public sector responses so far. Ministry of Finance recognized and agreed to submit this integrity pact to the cabinet for approval, for implementation for all the government agencies. But meanwhile, the Ministry of Transport, Mr. Chat, came to us and he said, look, I will not wait for the ministry, for the cabinet. As far as my responsibility is concerned with the Ministry of Transport, which handled the 2.2 trillion baht infrastructure project, we will sign this agreement with you and we will implement it. So we are hoping that by the end of this month, we will start the program. The first test project will come with the purchase of the NGV bus. Now this is, we have been invited to join under this program. So I don't know how many of you will be involved, and others may be bidding for this NGV bus. We'll be there to make sure that the project will be transparent. How about the private sector? As I mentioned, that there have been 161 signatory companies in Thailand joining IOD for the collective action. It just started. We hope that next year there will be several hundred, and hopefully there will be thousands. So if we can do this, we get all the private sector, good companies to enjoy. All the bad ones will feel left out, and eventually they have to do something about it. The 5 institutional investors, AIMC, which is the Association of Investment Management Companies, ASCO, Association of Thai Securities Company, TLWA is the Thai Life Insurance Association, GPF is Government Pension Fund, and SSF is the Social Security Fund. The 5 big investors in Thailand have said that they will invest only in the good corporate companies, meaning that those listed companies that do not have a good governance will not be invested by all these 5. It's a big money. All these 5 have a lot of money. Okay. How about efforts to the Thai society? The people, last survey that we done, at now 70% agree that they will say no to corruption. This is a big increase from the 2010, which is 53%. This is again as a result of the survey conducted by the Thai University Chamber. And the NACC also have polled themselves. They said 82% of the youth perception of corruption now as wrongdoing. I'm glad this happened because for several months back, I was talking about the young people when they were surveyed. They said it's okay for corruption as long as I have some benefit with it. Now this attitude is changing a bit, and I'm glad that we see some good results. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the people who are giving us support. Last year, NACC provided an award for contribution to our organization. The Social Venture Network of Asia, which Kunanan is the chairman, have given us the award. And the media, The Nation and Post Today were kind enough to give our organization the Person of the Year. Before I finish with my talk, let me tell you another story. Back in 1963, when I was studying in United States, I heard a speech by Dr. Martin Luther King, the black American leader of the racial movement at the time. He started the speech and said, "I have a dream." And his dream was to say someday, to see the equal racial equality in the U.S. But unfortunately, he was assassinated a few years after that. His dream lives on. Today, I think, I would say mostly successful. America today is pretty much have the social and racial equality. In Thailand, I like to say that we have a dream. I said we because I cannot do it alone. I like to say that we have a dream that someday Thailand will be corruption-free. I want to prove that God is wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone can help. Join us to fight the corruption. Stand up and be counted. Thank you very much.